Hey, Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's topic, the privilege of gratitude, two paths, the second in a series that was written by Glenn. So we'll be excited to get into that in just a few minutes. But first, as always, I'd like to say hello to the rest of the panel. So for those listening for the first time, my name is Cripps or Jason, and I am the host of the broadcast, but I could not do it without the rest of the panel. And we'll start with our friend from Australia, also the writer of this series, Glenn. Glenn, take a second to say hello to everyone if you'd like to.
Hi. Anyone know how to fix a washing machine?
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, nobody else does either. They say, we're not coming here, you live out in the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, anyway, that's
man.
the joy. That's the joys of isolation.
Yep.
No. Now, my dad could if he was close by. I'm sure he'd be happy to come over there and take a look at it. I've seen him rig all kinds of various devices, and certainly the washer is one of them. He's fixed a washer for me a couple times. It was just a bad knob, and he just fashioned a knob and put it on there. It was made of wood. In fact, he likes to really get into his project, so he made a piece of wood that looked like the old knob with a where you could screw it on, kind of like a closet knob, like the wooden closet knob. Anyway, so there you have it. So I hope you're able to find someone to fix your washer.
This one is a little more complicated. It flooded the house.
Again.
Oh
no!
Oh no!
Number 4 flooding.
Oh my gosh!
But I can't blame Sahara for this one. She was just asleep while I was in the office, and I walked down the hallway, and I thought, beep, 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 4-letter words, and no, clean up time.
Oh no!
Oh, Glenn,
that's horrible.
Yeah.
So, gosh, you know what? When you guys built your house, you should have maybe put some drains in like different hallways and the kitchen.
There's plenty of drains. I couldn't build it like Noah's Ark, could I?
No, it might have been good too.
Bringing the animal 2 by 2, Glenn. Except that brown snake.
Anyway, such is life. We'll sort it. Not the worst thing that could happen.
No, definitely not.
Well, I guess
so frustrating.
Tonight's topic will fit right in for you.
Yeah, you bet.
Gratitude, two paths.
Yeah, the poor guy next door just took his wife to Sydney for the disgusting operation tomorrow. So I think we're traveling pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I'll move on next to the wonderful, the amazing, the hilarious Nez from Nez Lover Channel. Marisa, take a second to say hello to everyone, if you would.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to True Story Live here on Sunday. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to everyone who also lurks and may not participate in the chat. And certainly thank you to everyone who shares it out on their social media and catches the replay. I might be sharing a link or two during the stream. I'll share the link of Jen having fun with art with me last Friday. That was an exceptionally fun stream. I hope you'll give it a look. Ooh, looking forward to another Glenn authored write-up discussion. It's going to be a good one. Put your hip boots on. We're going deep tonight. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Can't wait to get started. And Glenn, I would take a broken washing machine over the snakes getting in the house any day of the week. So, you can look at it that way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
See, I told you, I said in the intro that she was hilarious, and absolutely is.
She just proved our point.
Up to her hip boots, yeah. Proved her point. That's right. That's pretty good stuff. Okay, and last but certainly not least, my amazing wife, Jennifer. Take a minute to say hello if you'd like to.
Hey, guys. It's been quite a week, quite a weekend, and it is Sunday, at least here. I don't know, what day is it? Monday now in Australia, Glenn?
Yes.
Yep, it's 12:04 midday.
All right.
Midday.
Midday. Awesome.
Awesome.
So it's good to be here. Really excited about this particular write-up by Glenn.
Yeah.
Gratitude has changed my life in the last year, a little bit over a year. I have a journal, but it's not like specifically for gratitude. I was supposed to say gratitude, but it's even in your mind, thinking about the things you're grateful for is just it's just a game changer. So I'm really excited. Great to see everybody. Do you want me to say hey to everybody in the chat?
Yes, please
That's
do.
here so far. All right. We have me, Nez, Debbie S is here, Andrew Havidic is here, and then Glenn. And that's who we have so far. People are still coming in.
Fantastic. If anyone has had a chance to visit Andrew's channel, he just did a video on 2 Timothy. I forget the chapter and verse, but I watched that the other day. Just reading scripture. So if anyone has an interest in that, please visit Andrew's channel. He's got various other things on there, other content as well, but that's the thing I saw this past week. So give him a little like on there and listen to a little Bible reading, and I'm sure he would appreciate that. And also a comment wouldn't hurt anything. All right. So this series, after all the broadcasts we've done leading up into, I think it's 6 parts from what I understand so far, and things change. We'll see how it ends up. But the basic idea of the series, and Glenn can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're trying to look at practical ways in which you can live a life of love. And tonight's particular part of that topic is gratitude, which I think is an important thing with everything going on in the world, and also as individuals living in this life. There's a lot of ways to look at a situation, and I've experienced times of gratitude and times when it would be the opposite of gratitude. I can't think of the antonym on that, but the opposite of gratitude.
Attitude?
Attitude. Okay.
Attitude or gratitude?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes didn't have such great attitude. But all right. So we're going to dive into it, and we'll say hello to anyone new that comes in the chat as they come. And let's get started. It starts with a quote: "Nothing in the desert is taken for granted." And that quote is by Mohamed. Welcome to part 2 of The Privilege of Life. The same relevant videos will be linked each week. First video is Songs of the Sahara, a film by Sam Newton. It's only 6 minutes long. And then Morocco 2022, A New World, a film by Rodrigo Mendonca. And that one's only 5 minutes. So if you guys get a chance to take a look at those videos, please do. It's worth it. And then continuing, when one listens to the voice of Mohamed, a generational nomad, not only will you hear him, but I also trust you will feel gratitude in his voice. He is content with his lot. He asks no more. Theme song for tonight is 2 Paths by Audiomachine from their Nomad album. In tonight's context, the song signifies that there are 2 paths available to each of us, how we identify our place in the world. 2 paths, one being a view of life based on what we have. The other is about what we don't. The link is in the description. It's not the least complicated life, the one where we see gratitude in what we have. This path is simple. The other, a never-ending quest trying to reach a holy grail that does not exist. The quest becomes about more, and more will never be enough. As we suggested last week, to think in nomadic terms sounds simple, but putting it all into practice might not be so easy. So what might make it difficult? For a start, those people with personal goals and ambition may well say something like, quote, "Do we expect to give up my potential achievement in order to live a more relaxed life?" The answer is no. However, there is a rider to no. If one is focused on contentment coming from some time in the future, one has little room for gratitude today. The sad part of this is that a brilliant opportunity to embrace today is lost. Life is about balance. Live for today and have your hopes and dreams too. Now we're going to embark on a little thought-provoking expedition via our questions. Is gratitude about attitude, or is there more to it? Some more. Look around you. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have? Look around you. Who has mental challenges or disabilities greater than you have? Look around you. Who has greater emotional struggles than you have? Look around you. Who has a spiritual conflict greater than you have? Herein lies our challenge, to try to mindset in terms of how fortunate we are and integrate that thinking into daily existence of gratitude. So there's self, and there's our connection with others via relationships. Admitted, finding gratitude in some of these situations is a tough call, but we can try. On to more questions. What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? What gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences? For your relationships, what gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? For your relationships, what gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences? Philosophically, I wonder if a person can live a low stress, low heart rate, contented existence if there is not a place for gratitude in there somewhere. What do you think? Final question, is gratitude related to love? If so, how? Wow. As with last week, I like to think that we are all nomads in our own way. Gratitude is another oasis in the desert. And a quote, let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let's all be thankful. That's from Buddha. The catastrophe in Turkey and Syria is at the foremost of my mind. There is a personal connection, having been to that area. This write-up is dedicated to those wonderful people remaining who are in terrible distress, but will somehow find a way to live on. Thoughts are with them. All right. All right. There's a lot here for sure. I know I felt like a nomad from time to time, certainly not in any kind of actual desert, but in the concrete desert in which I feel like America definitely is. There's a lot of nice spaces still out there, and we have our own deserts too, but I doubt it's like the Sahara. Not quite sure. All right. Checking the chat, I see that our friend Jamie Grace just popped in, and Jamie just finished her first year at her new job.
Well, week, not year.
I
was like, woo.
She's been there for a long time, so why am I talking
flies.
about it? This is her anniversary of having been there for a year. Happy first year anniversary of your new job, Jamie.
We can do that again next year.
Yeah. For next year. All right. Yeah. So just before we get started, should have said this at the beginning, but I am starting a new job tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. Pictures have been posted on Facebook, and I have talked about it a little bit. So I'm grateful. I certainly have gratitude about being employed. I mean, there are many other things, as you know, Glenn and I have discussed, and what will be discussed tonight, I'm sure. You know, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and to find a way to have gratitude is important to me, and I definitely am in that place. I know things could be a lot worse, and we've been struggling financially for a while and looking forward to getting a job and having benefits and things like that. I've done various jobs, and of course Jen has a great job, but I'm excited to add a full-time job to the pool, and a lot of gratitude related to that. All right. So I said all that to say that we're going to try to keep it to 10 o'clock tonight, just because it's an early start, and I'm going to do my best to kind of move through things a little bit faster, especially when it's my turn to comment, just to make sure we don't run over tonight. All right. Getting to the first question. So Glenn says, within the write-up now, we're going to embark on a little thought-provoking expedition via our questions. The first question is gratitude about attitude, or is there more to it? Anyone have a burning desire to answer the first question? Is gratitude about attitude, or is there more to it?
Huh. I'll go first.
All right, Jen's
up.
Jen's up.
I am so grateful to be up first. My first reaction is to think that it is an attitude, but then I'm thinking, are thoughts an attitude? I think attitude usually comes after thoughts.
Yeah.
So then I'd say that I would think of it as thoughts, that they kind of start as thoughts and then it kind of bleeds into an attitude. And then hopefully from the attitude, it bleeds into action, like how you actually physically live in the moment, like in your day. So that was a good question, but that's my answer.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. What about you, Nez? Is gratitude about attitude, or is there more to it for you?
Gratitude to me is certainly an attitude to have that is really a catalyst to bring on other good things. Like Jen just said about it turning into an action, it can make you, when you are grateful, that means you appreciate what you have, whether that's other people in your life or other things or situations. And when you are grateful and appreciative, that will show up in the way you talk, the way you think, what you do. When you have something that you care about, you're going to take care of it. You're going to care if some damage comes to it. And that can be, quite literal damage. That can be metaphorical damage. But when there's something wrong, you're going to want to make that right.
Sure.
And so I think it's an attitude that really is a catalyst for other good things, good fruit to come from it.
Yeah. Beautiful answer. All right. We're cooking so far. I would agree with, what Jen said, and also with Nez. I think that there are different levels of gratitude, and I think it can be genuine, authentic gratitude. And I think anyone that reaches that level, they've been through a lot to get there. And then the other level would be deciding to have gratitude, and you may not be connected to that feeling. That's where the attitude part, I think, could come in, is you decide to have an attitude of gratitude, and maybe you're not quite feeling it. Maybe it's not quite authentic for you, but you want it to be. And the attitude can lead you to that place, kind of like what Jen was saying. It can, you can use that mood, ride the wave, so to speak, into having the gratitude be real. Can someone decide to have gratitude even if they're not connected to it? I don't know. I mean, I think we do what we need to do to get through certain situations, but to really get to a place where you've experienced enough and you're looking at the outer world and knowing that things could always be worse, and to having gratitude about the things that you have. When we pray roof over our head, clothes on the fridge, and clothes on our back. Those are all little things that we all need. And we have those things. We're very rarely, I can't remember the last time I missed a meal, not by my choice, in the past 3 decades, 4 decades. I don't know. It's not something I struggle with, but there are people that don't have food. So being grateful for what I do have certainly is important, and attitude can play a lot into that, I think. I don't know if any of that made sense, but we're going to go to Glenn and ask what Glenn thinks. Is gratitude about attitude, or is there more to it for you, Glenn?
Yeah, and I haven't thought about any of these. When you read it, I thought, geez, these are difficult questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like I sit there for a day and think, what am I going to have as an answer? No, I haven't even thought about it. I think so. But I wonder, is it some kind of personal adversity that makes someone take notice and think, gee, maybe I am not doing so badly as other people.
Right.
I just wonder, because there's so much emphasis these days on self-focus. I'm just wondering, what is it that transitions a person from thinking about their own lot compared with then starting to compare it with what is actually in the world. And I thought of adversity, but I wonder, is there more to it than that? I mean, when you start to shape your mindset into a bigger picture, what do you think?
I think it's a great question. And I wonder if people that have never suffered some kind of difficult or time or hardship and their life has just been a breeze. Now, I don't know any of these people, but I can't assume they don't exist somewhere. Born into a rich family and everything's provided, and you barely have to get a job and work for a paycheck. You're given an allowance and blah blah blah. Does that person are they grateful for the things that they have, or do they take it for granted? Is there gratitude for all the things? Do they even look at the rest of the world and care about those things at all? Maybe there are some out there. I can't assume that there's not. But I think there has to be some kind of hardship in order to really, truly feel gratitude. And that's just my opinion. I can't imagine how a person that's never struggled with anything could be grateful. I mean, I suppose they could mentally be grateful. I just don't know how that would, I can't relate to that. All I know is for myself, and having gone through things and knowing that other people are going through harder things than I could ever imagine. I am grateful. I try to live in gratitude. I'm sure I have a lot farther to go. I know there are times that I'm not in the attitude of gratitude, but I strive for better. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I started to. I don't think it's possible without some kind of struggle. It's just my opinion. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Do you think that a person that's never suffered any kind of adversity or hardship or struggle, you think that they have the attitude of gratitude?
I think they can, but it's a little different, and it might not be as like the depth of gratitude that somebody else might feel if they've been living in want and then have a reprieve, or living in want and just very grateful for the things that they do have.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nez, do you want to weigh in on that? You think that a person can just grow up in affluence and, no struggle at all and have an attitude of gratitude toward their situation?
I'm sure they can, and I'm sure there are, but I think they are the minority.
Yeah.
I think when you grow up in privilege and wealth, you're just not going to understand what it's like to do without.
Right.
And it's that doing without that really helps you appreciate what you do have or what you do attain in this life. To look back and go, wow, I came from this, or God brought me through all of this. Then, like Jen was saying, there's the real depth to the gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's given to you and you haven't worked for it, how do you find value in it? I still think when a person takes the time to look at how other people live, I mean, they can probably muster up in their mind at least an understanding of why they should have gratitude for what they have, and especially in comparison. When we do comparison, that makes it easier to think about the topic of gratitude. And in comparison to this struggle for a person, I should have gratitude that I don't struggle with that. Okay, I think we filled that one out. Does anyone have any other comments about it?
Yeah. I just had some feedback that. Hang on, let me read it. I'm getting feedback as we go. Hang fire, please.
Yeah.
One of us.
While
So
you're doing
many-
that,
Time.
I've got so many windows open, I can't find anything.
I'll just
Okay, it says gratitude is not comparison to others; it's self-reflection. Yeah, but I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I think I think they're both relevant. I think when you compare yourself with someone else, it opens a window into thinking, hey, compared with that person, geez, haven't I got it easy?
yeah.
So I think it's both, but I don't know what you guys think. Of course.
Yeah, I think it's both. I don't think it's one or the other. What do you think, Jen?
What was the point again? Sorry, I was reading the chat. I said to sound like I knew what we were talking about.
No, the point was that the point was made that gratitude is. There's that laughing kookaburra.
Just not laughing now, Glenn. Watch out.
Oh boy, I'm going to shut up until you tell me you're finished. Okay.
I love you, Glenn.
Tell me later. Okay. The point was that gratitude is self-reflection, not comparison with others, and that was the question. I think it's both, and Cripps weighed in, and now that's one for you, Jen.
Okay. I think there are times that it does have something to do with comparing, because, like I've had many days where I was feeling down on my luck or whatever.
Yeah.
And then seeing someone on the street, that has a sign and they've got a little kid or a dog with them or something. And, it could be a scam or it could be legit. They could be, but they're outside and they're asking people for money. And so in that split second or a couple minute comparison, it does put me into a place of more gratitude. But I will say there's been many times that I have been grateful when there's no one else around and there's no fancy cars or big houses or people flashing $100 bills, y'all, out of their wallets or something. So I think it can be both. But I think, I don't know if this was where the question was going, but I know there are times where people are like, oh, well, wow, my car is way, cooler than their car, just as a stupid example.
Right.
I don't know if that's gratitude. That would be more like boasting in my mind.
Right.
So
I think you have to be self-reflective in order to understand a feeling of gratitude. You would have to be looking at yourself in some way. And I feel like there would have to be a comparison to something. So the self-reflection part, to me, seems like a necessary part of the equation to get to an attitude of gratitude. I don't know how else you'd be able to see it. All right. Anyone else want to say anything else about that before we move on? I'll say hello to Christ is the Truth. Welcome. And they had a comment. Christ is the Truth says, I felt so much closer to God when I'm poor rather than when I was well off, because then you have no choice but to trust in him to provide for you. That's from Christ is the Truth. Felt much closer to God when I'm going to use my word, when we're struggling, as opposed to when everything is really awesome. I'm paraphrasing his comment, but he says closer to God rather than when I was well off, when I'm poor, because then you have no choice but to trust in him to provide for you. So thank you for your comment. So that would tend to side toward there's more appreciation or gratitude when there's struggle as opposed to when everything's just going perfect. I'll just say briefly that I thought a lot about this in the difference between having a job and not having a job and the effects that has. We get by and Our relationship is wonderful, thank God, and it hasn't ruined anything. If nothing else, we've gotten closer, and it has helped us. Our attitudes, just in general, with the struggle and with things being tight. We have to be more frugal and have to pay attention to things more, but there's other things to focus on. It's not the main focus. So the struggle is an important part of the relationship. What's it going to be like when the struggle is not there? And I have asked the question, are we going to enjoy that when there's not a struggle? I mean, obviously, someone would assume that if you're struggling, that you don't have gratitude. I think the world would assume that you're not living in gratitude if you're struggling with something. But so far, it seems like, at least from Christ is the Truth, they're saying that when they're poor, they feel closer to God even than when they have more. Anyone have an opinion on that, or want to add to the comment from Christ is the Truth?
Yeah, I thought it was a good point, actually.
Okay.
It requires a degree of trust and
Sure.
faith, I would imagine, because I was saying in the chat, it's not that different from the universe provides mentality, where
No.
you don't actively go out and say, hey, God or the universe, I need this or I need that. You have to accept graciously what you are provided with.
Right.
And I think that attitude really keeps the pressure off, because you're not in a begging mode. You're just in an acceptance mode. And I think they're very different.
Yeah. Your whole thank you, Glenn. Anyone else want to add to that before we move forward? That was a good comment.
It was really good.
Yeah, we appreciate your comments. If anyone else wants to answer any questions in the chat, as usual, sometimes I actually say that, but we do welcome your comments, and if I see them, I will read them. Okay, so next question. Look around you. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have? Now, I'll answer first, but I just want to say now what I'm used to hearing from people when they ask these questions. I have felt in the past that when someone points out that someone always has it worse than you, that in some ways it assumes that whatever you're going through isn't that big of a deal. So that's the place that I'm in, for part of my mind, as I'm thinking when I'm looking at these questions. I mean, I think they're great questions, and I have no problem answering them. But I hear that little voice in my head that says, well, if you're thinking about the idea that people do have more physical challenges or disabilities than I do, does that mean that what I'm going through isn't important? And I would say that none of these questions means that whatever you're struggling with isn't important. But it is, in order to have an attitude of gratitude in this comparison that we're doing between ourselves and people that have more challenges in any of these areas, is to see that we should have gratitude regardless of our own situation, of our own struggles. It doesn't mean that they're not important. It just is, choosing to strive for living in an attitude of gratitude, taking the things that you do have as opposed to what you don't have. Okay, so look around you. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have? Many people. I mean, the only physical challenge I have is, I'm getting older, and everyone goes through that. I don't have anything major yet. I mean, I had to get eyeglasses at age 40 to be able to read, but I wouldn't consider that a real physical challenge. And the only other thing I've talked about being born deaf in one ear. I don't consider disability. It makes things a little weird if I'm sitting to the right of someone in a movie theater and I have to lean over to the other ears if they want to whisper something, or in the car with music playing and someone's talking, it might be more difficult for me to hear them. But other than that, it's not I don't consider it disability. I'm like, I wouldn't file for any kind of compensation from the government for that, when there are people that have many things. So as far as physical challenges, I don't have many. And I wouldn't say I have any disabilities. So pretty much everybody that suffers with anything could be in the category of greater than me. That's my answer to that. What do you say, Jen? Look around you. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have?
Oh, I think a lot of people. There's people all over the place that, have physical disabilities and, even emotional. Some people deal with, is it agoraphobia, where their social anxiety is just so bad that they can't leave home.
Well, that's the next one. That's the mental.
Oh, gotcha. So just physical. Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think we'll have more time to talk about this further down, but some of the most grateful people I have met are people with physical disabilities.
Wow. Yeah.
I've seen, stories and testimonies. I've met a lot of people that their spirit and their light is so beautiful. And I mean, you see stories like this all the time where, they'll even have somebody ask them like, why are you so happy? Or,
right. Right.
And I think I could be wrong, but I feel like, I don't know how I feel because I've never been in that place before, so I can only assume. But when you deal with physical ailments or things that get in the way of doing regular, everyday, normal things that people that don't have a disability can do,
right?
I'm sure everyone has a choice. They can choose to just feel really sorry for themselves, or be grateful for the faculties that they do have, and rising above it, whether it's the physical part of it in any way that they can, or mentally, just being grateful. I think it carries people, and it's a light. I mean, it's such a light to other people that don't deal with that look at them and say, oh my gosh, this, you see stories of kids with Down syndrome. And I've worked with a couple, I have never met people so incredibly joyous.
Yeah.
It's infectious to the umpteenth degree. And that's another, they're just so loving and accepting and genuine. Right. It's just amazing.
Right. Great answer, Jen. Thank you for sharing. And we'll ask Nez what she thinks. Look around you, Nez. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have?
Sadly, many people.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I could wake up this morning. There are people who can't physically wake up and they're in a coma.
Yeah.
Or they're attached to machines and tubes.
Yeah.
There are people who can't go to the bathroom on their own without help.
Right.
There are people whose organs are failing or have failed and they need machines to help do those functions.
Yeah.
I try to look at all the different physical things that go on in my world on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I try to stay thankful that no matter what else is going on, I can still go up my stairs or walk out my door or get my own groceries or care for my daughter or prepare a meal. Those are all basic, everyday things that there are a lot of people out there that can't do those things.
Yeah. Nez, have you noticed what Jen mentioned? Do you see people that have real noticeable physical challenges? Does it seem like to you that a lot of them have a better attitude than people that are fully abled without the physical challenges or disabilities? Have you noticed that as well?
I would say that there is a fair amount of people who fit that description, absolutely.
Yeah.
But in my experience, I've met quite a few people with physical challenges that are filled with resentment and anger and hatred towards God, or fill in the blank, and they just blame and are miserable in their own state and are not grateful, or, well, at least not outwardly appearing grateful of things that are good that are still there in their life. So I think it's a mix. I'd like to say it was more, but I think it's fair to say there's plenty on both sides of that. There are thankfully many people who are struggling with physical challenges
Yeah.
that are very positive and thankful. So it's not
Yeah.
totally hopeless out there, but I think we got a fair amount on both sides.
Sure. Like Lieutenant Dan was for a while on Forrest Gump. He was
Right.
really angry at his disability, and he was angry at God. And he, remember the storm scene, and he's up there tying himself to the mast, shaking his fist at God. Can't you do better than that? He comes around, though. Case in point, Johnny Erickson Tata. Johnny Erickson Tata is for those of you that don't know, she is a Christian apologist. Has been around for a very long time, involved in Christian radio. I don't know if she still has her own radio show. I think it was just a short one, and she would also have even shorter little sentences about how to take each day. And she definitely would consider herself a Christian. But as a teenager back in the 70s, I think it's been that long ago in the 70s, because I remember watching the movie of her life story when I had to have been, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. So it's been a while ago, but she's still around. And this is an example of someone who was paralyzed from I think it was the waist down, but she had some paralyzation in other places at first. And it's a story of her own struggles, her own anger, and she was paralyzed in a diving accident, broke her neck. So she has since, over time, regained through therapy and things like that, the use of, I think it's one hand, and she can do some movements. But she is grateful. She presents the attitude of gratitude. She has allowed her disability to seem like, to her, a gift from God, and she believes that someday it'll be taken away from her, and she'll be able to walk and run and all these things that she has been prevented from doing for most of her life. And is she really grateful? I don't know. I don't know her personally, but she presents herself as being grateful and having an attitude of gratitude. So that's just one example. I've seen other examples that allude to what Jen was saying, but I definitely agree with Nez that there's probably people on both sides of that aisle, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about whatever we need to do to have gratitude in whatever our situation is.
Yeah,
is important in this overall idea of learning how to live in love in practical terms. Glenn, you're up next on this one. Look around you. Who has physical challenges or disabilities greater than you have? What do you have to say?
Well, first off, I want to endorse what you said. These questions are in no way meant to diminish or anything like that of anything that any person is going through. That is not the intent whatsoever. But there is okay. No, it's not a but. It's really I want to make the point that the whole crux of these questions is based on, if you have gratitude, you have an awareness of other people around you, and even if you have an issue, but if your issue is way less than someone else, it does not prevent you from helping another person. It's like if you've got a sore toe, but you see a lady with a walking stick and drops her groceries on the ground, just that simple awareness and willingness to pick up the groceries, I think things like that really lead to fulfillment as a person. And that, I think, from an inner contentment point of view, that it is those small things that you do really add to your approach to who am I, what am I about in this world. So and quite obviously the person in the next room or 3 rooms down has got huge physical challenges, way greater than I have. So I have it in my face every day, and so does she. And I'm the fortunate one. So but it makes me think, well, I know I had often she has a sort of a signal if she gets out of bed late and I want help, she leaves the light on in the bathroom. So when I walk out to the kitchen, I'll see it. Now,
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times I think I don't want to do this. I'm going to walk off and go back to my office and ignore it.
Right.
Then I feel so guilty,
Yeah.
and my conscience kicks in. I can't do it.
Right.
I can't because it doesn't feel fair.
Right.
Or I just can't. I can't. I would feel bad if it didn't.
Yeah.
So you sort of, once you get into this state of mind, it sort of gets you to the point where you really feel, I suppose, I hate the word obligated, but you feel all responsibility, but you do take it.
Yeah.
You do take it, and I think love forms part of that equation. I know.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sort of heading off down the line a bit, but yeah, it's not always easy.
No.
But just the smallest thing that you can do for someone can mean something. Like just to help my wife with a shower saves her an hour of struggling and burning her energy out for a whole day.
Right.
And there's other people way worse off, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Who can't get out of bed.
Right.
But any little thing that any of us can do through our privileged position is so meaningful.
Yeah.
So
I would agree. I would agree.
You go.
And it does help you. Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. It does help you to do kind things for others. Use the example of a woman spilling her groceries. You taking the 5 minutes or however long it would take you to help her, pick the groceries up. And maybe if they're walking, they don't have far to walk. You could walk with them to the house. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world and it's hard to trust people, but this, I think, and maybe this is just an illusion that people have painted for us, but I remember growing up and people being generally like that would help someone. I know certainly with the church that my grandparents went to, I remember one time I was a teenager, so I had moved back in. I moved to live with my grandparents to repeat my senior year in high school. So that's what age we're talking about. And my grandma was on the prayer chain, in the church. And when someone had a prayer request, it would come through the phone and she would have a list of people that she needed to call and so on and so on and so on until we had this whole network of people that went to the church praying for any given prayer request that comes up. And I remember my grandfather came in to my room and said, "Come on, you want to ride with me?" And said that we had to go somewhere. And so to speed up the story, what it ended up being is our youth pastor, their power had gone off for some reason. It wasn't because he didn't pay his bill. He was a frugal pastor. He paid his bills on time, but something had happened. And I don't remember all the details of everything that we did, but we went over there and we had bought some groceries and some non-perishable stuff and took it over to the house and things like that. So someone called in that prayer and we met the challenge. Now, I had nothing to do with any of that. It was all set up by other people, but I was part of the process. I just remember feeling so good that it just a small thing. I mean, I didn't really put myself out there. It's not like pulling someone out of a ditch with a rope or anything. It's not physically strenuous, but it is something I did that made me feel good after. And everything that I have ever done, I mean, sometimes it's giving. I remember giving an older couple. This isn't about, how great I am or anything. It's just presenting this opinion that doing good for others helps you. It benefits you. And that's not the reason you do it, but I'm just saying as a side little gift that you're given when you do something for someone else, it helps your attitude. And it certainly can lead you to gratitude. Helping someone with directions. It's not always, Jen mentioned people with the sign on the side of the road. We've talked about what a tough situation that is. You don't know the story behind the people, but maybe sometime you got an extra $5, give them a $5. I mean, you'll see it if you haven't experienced it for yourself. Sometimes you help people and you don't know their story, but helping them, just the act of helping them, it can't hurt you. It really can't hurt you. So not a lecture, take it for whatever you want it to, but Glenn is right. I mean, the feeling that you get when you actually do something nice for someone, it really can't be matched by much. So there's that. All right, there's Nez. We lost Nez for a second, but she's back.
She's back, baby.
She's back. All right. I think we all answered this one. Yep. Okay, next one. This is where Jen had started to go a little bit. So Jen, you'll get a chance to talk more about that because it's fascinating what you started to say. But the next one is look around you. Who has mental challenges or disabilities greater than you have? So first one is physical. Now we're talking about mental challenges. Now, I have a lot to say about this one, but Jen, do you want to go first? Who has mental challenges or disabilities greater than you have?
I think sadly a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, I listen to a lot of like not talk shows like, you know, Maury or anything like that.
Right.
But
No.
you know, podcasts and interviews and stuff on YouTube. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing to me when you look at the data of how many people deal with crippling anxiety, you
Yeah.
know.
Agoraphobia is what you mentioned.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so many other things. And how, you know, like I'd mentioned, how crippling it is. It
Yeah.
affects everything. It affects your relationships and your
Yeah.
job and your sleep and your eating. And it just seems to permeate everything. That's just one of many things that people deal with. Because was it emotionally?
Yeah.
Was that what was worded in the
Mental.
question?
What,
Mental.
no,
Okay.
mental. Sorry, mental.
Mental. I guess that could be emotional in a sense, or is that one of the other questions?
No,
I wasn't sure if I could merge the two.
Well, you can do what you want. You can do what you want. Yeah, you can merge the two. So this one's mental, and next one is emotional.
Oh, okay.
But,
I didn't want to do that. Okay, so mental. Yeah, you know, people that have autism. You know, I guess Down syndrome could be considered physical and mental.
sure, some of them are going to be both.
Yeah.
They're mental and emotional, but
yeah. And I used to somewhat be in well, I was not somewhat. I was in a really bad mental place, I feel like, for the majority of my life.
yeah,
And I have gotten out of that headspace.
yeah,
And I feel very, very fortunate. And sometimes I look back and I think, like, how did I get here?
right,
Okay. And I think part of a big push behind trying to figure out how I got here is because I really want to help people that are stuck in that place.
yeah,
But I also recognize that this particular journey we're on, it's not a cookie cutter. It does look different for different people
sure,
and
sure,
so on and so forth. But to be able to gratitude coming in on the side of being able to share with other people and sympathize and empathize with them when they're struggling with stuff like that.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with all kinds of things mentally, and it's sad and it's frustrating on many fronts as well, I'm sure, for them, but also the people around them that care about them that
Right.
you know don't struggle with those things.
Yeah.
So did I answer the question okay?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty much everybody, you know, for me, mental challenges, that's what scares me the most is people with like Lou Gehrig's disease, for instance, or Alzheimer's, things like that. And I have seen that. My grandparents had some friends that used to take us to baseball games when we'd go visit every summer, and his name was Elmer. His wife had Parkinson's, and then he got Alzheimer's. So started with the wife having, you know, challenges. I'm not going to downplay Parkinson's at all. There are very serious parts of the disease. Some people, you know, they have only minor symptoms, you know, manageable with medication and things like that. But, you know, Michael J. Fox, in fact, has struggled with that on and off. So the certainly it's difficult. She had it pretty bad, and it was progressively worse. He had been taking care of her, Elmer had, and then he got Alzheimer's, and so they had to get, I think it was a daughter that came and helped. But I saw the change in both Elmer and I forget her name, unfortunately. I saw the change in them from when they were healthy, when I was younger, and then later in life saw the result of that. Always shook me, and also mental illness. People struggle with that, and we're quick to say, call someone a narcissist, things like that, and sometimes we're 100% correct. But I've also encountered people that have real mental illness. It's not that they want to be a jerk. It's that they're struggling with something that distorts their view of things, and it causes them to act in ways that may not be healthy, or ways that we may not consider healthy.
Yeah.
So it's hard to recognize which it is sometimes, but people have these mental challenges or disabilities that, as Jen said, can very much be crippling. So pretty much anybody, I don't feel like I struggle with a whole lot of mental challenges or disabilities. So anybody other than me could be greater, for sure. What do you think, Naz? Who has mental challenges or disabilities greater than you have?
Again, lots and lots of people out there. You already brought up social anxiety, agoraphobia. There are people who can't physically leave their home
Right.
because of what they fear, and that holds them back. There
Yeah.
are people that are just damaged from their upbringing,
Right.
whether they had whatever. A lot of narcissistic parents can do some serious damage
Sure.
mentally
Yeah.
to their kids. But I'm thankful that I'm not in the same mental space with some
Right.
of the worst places that I know I've been in my life. People looming over me, living with me, putting their propaganda out there for me day after day after day. And
Yeah.
there's many people that are still
Yeah.
taking that abuse, putting up
Right.
with that.
Right.
And so that's just one more thing that I'm thankful for. I've been through those horrible things that I've been through, but I'm not there now.
Right.
And that goes back to you've got to know what it's like to go through it
Yeah.
before you can appreciate what it's like to not have that kind of horrible thing going on in your life
Yeah.
anymore. And I
Yeah.
certainly do. I know you can appreciate something without having been in dire straits or without, but I
Sure.
think it's deeper and richer when you
Yep.
have overcome and been
I
through.
agree. Thank you, Nez. Appreciate that. What do you think, Glenn? Mental challenges or disabilities greater than you have?
Obviously, lots of people, but I'm trying. You guys are saying that answer, so I'm just trying to stick more to things that are in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them is my eldest son, who has Asperger's.
Right.
That is a significant mental challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
About 3 years ago, he was on suicide watch.
Yeah. I remember
because
that.
he couldn't sleep, and he for the first time I ever heard him, he cried.
Yeah.
And I knew that things were really bad, so
Yeah.
I got in touch with my other son, and we ran to Canberra. Anyway, we got him
Yeah.
into a mental health facility, who were wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, while he was in there, we saw lots of other people.
Sure.
And my goodness, it even was to the point where he said to me, "Dad, I can't stay here. These people are absolute nuts."
Yeah.
Like, even from his point of view as an autistic person, he was seeing how bad other people were.
Right.
And seriously, it was like, unfortunately, one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Yeah. Exactly.
Extremely confronting.
Yeah.
So, like, his story is one with a very positive and uplifting outcome. He's now 37, nearly 38. He's the best he's ever been by that intervention. But we know, having looked at lots and lots of other people in that facility, they're never coming out.
Yeah.
They're not. They have no life in the sense that what we understand life to be.
Right.
It's extremely sad, and it really did drive home the point of self-reflection.
Yeah.
You walk out of there and you're pretty you're a bit of a mess, that's for sure. It's emotionally confronting.
Yeah.
Just as when you see children who have disabilities, all that kind of stuff, it hurts.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I know you can't do anything about it, but just to understand and recognize that there's other people out there so much worse than my son. It's just like, it's very in your face, that's for sure. Yeah. So once again, we're thankful that he could be a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. So pretty much anybody, all of us, at least on the panel for sure, thus far, anybody we can think of might have greater disabilities in all these areas than we do, for sure. I don't think any of us have any excuse other than to be grateful and to have gratitude. So I'm certainly taking that as a personal challenge. All right. So,
can I add something real quick?
Well, sure.
Why do you think that the people that walk around not having gratitude and, whether it's boasting or comparing, what do you think is different? Because they too see other people that are less fortunate than them. What do you think is the mechanism behind that? Like, is it just simply ignoring the people, because a lot of times these kinds of people still complain.
Yeah.
I just have always wondered, what is that?
I mean, it's a great question. We could probably do a whole series on that, trying to figure that out. But I think that, you know what I'm going to say. I feel like people that live in that place are living in their own wounds. And so when the only way I can imagine them doing it is to indeed ignore what other people go through, or to decide that whatever other people go through, they don't care. Their experience is more than that. And they live in that angry place. I should have had this. I should have had that. I don't deserve this treatment. I deserve better in life. So it becomes the other end of what we're talking about, generally speaking, which is being a healthy, balanced person. It goes to the other end of where they're self-absorbed, thinking about their own needs and not comparing themselves to anybody.
Yeah.
That's my answer for that. Anyone else want to weigh in on?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt the questions. Okay. It just was a thought that popped in.
No, I think this one comes down to they have, for some reason, a sense of entitlement.
Right.
Yeah.
There has to be.
Where that comes from, I'd love to know, but you can find that every day if you want to look for it. Yeah. People like that. Oh, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But who do you really want to be in a relationship with someone like that?
No.
No.
No. That's a big no for me.
It's a big no for me.
Yeah. No, I don't have the energy for it. I mean, I when I meet a person like that, I'm not going to rush off probably, but it's not going to be a relationship I pursue, if that's the attitude they have. I just can't be around it for very long. I think if you choose to be around that sort of person for very long, it starts to weigh on your own attitudes about things. I wouldn't want anything to, whatever balance I'm able to achieve in this life, I wouldn't want to allow anything near it, to disrupt my own balance because they're so out of whack.
So how would you have a stress-free, contented lifestyle trying to deal with someone with a sense of entitlement? I think it would drive you insane.
I think it would too. I think a lot of parents are having that problems right now with certain kids. Not all of them, I'm sure. There are always exceptions in each generation that comes up. This particular generation, the attitude that a lot of kids have that I've seen, I don't know how their parents deal with it, the real sense of entitlement, and it's arguable how they ended up that way. Did society cause the problem? Was it parenting? Each generation of parents, it seems like they'd be trying to do a little bit better than their parents did, but where did it all go wrong? I don't know. The best we can do is do the best we can, if we're parents or if we're in that role, is do the best we can to raise our kids. But if they have a sense of entitlement, I don't see how it's possible. I don't know where the up is from there. Okay. We'll go back to you again, Glenn, if you don't mind, on this next one. Who has greater emotional struggles than you have? What do you have to say about that one?
Once again, lots of people. Like, I can't think of anyone in particular, but I do recall Sandra. I know you're not going to cringe here, but Sandra likes to watch this show, Married at First Sight.
Oh, that's all right. She can watch what she wants.
Oh, I know she can, but I have to watch it too.
Yeah.
But there's a very interesting person on there last night who I would say has emotional struggles.
Right.
I'll relate to this. The upshot of this is that they put two people together and say we're going to so-called match by experts, if you don't know, and then you don't set eyes on each other until you have a supposed fake wedding, and then you've got to live together, okay, and then work through. Okay, so there was a guy last night. All he was still in love with his ex-partner. Right. So all he was doing was saying to the woman that they paired him with is how when she walked down the aisle, if she had looked better or more beautiful, he would have dropped his ex. In other words, he was just shifting a huge amount of shit onto this poor lady. Yeah. He's just shifting it sideways. And they fronted him and they said, well, basically, why are you doing this? This is disgusting. Yeah. And basically the idea was, which ultimately turns out the guy needs help. Yeah. These people who are there damaging other people in this vain effort to make themselves feel better by making someone else feel worse. Right. Sounds horrible. They're emotionally damaged, and the more I look around here, you can see this just in people's attitude. So once again, it's very easy to find someone who is emotionally, I don't know whether you call it damaged or you just detached. Is probably a better word in some ways. So yeah, very easy to find as well. Once again, very difficult. Right. Thanks, Glenn. I didn't really answer the question that well, but I thought the example was...
No, that was great.
It was good. It was good.
Oh my goodness! Once again, how does that person? So let's see. This person was totally ignorant of what they're doing until put on the spot to be made accountable. And how many other people are doing the same thing?
Yeah, a bunch.
Thousands, obviously.
Yeah. It happens everywhere.
Thanks, Cripps.
Thanks, Glenn. What about you, Jen? Do you want to weigh in on this one? Who has greater emotional struggles than you have?
Oh, gosh.
Because you've experienced some emotional struggles for sure. So you certainly are aware what that feels like. But
I was trying to think of somebody, within my circle per se.
Well, you don't have to mention any names, but we do know at least one person that I would say definitely has more.
Which
more
one
severe.
are you talking about? There's a couple. Sure. Well, I have one acquaintance who, from my perspective, because they boast a lot and talk about how much they make and kind of flaunt their wealth. Right. It's sad to me because I can recognize just from life experience that there is something missing. There's something that they're trying to make up for or hide or both. Right. And I think it really boils down to feeling unworthy. And so there's like this, what is the term? Overcompensation. Yeah. To try to make themselves look better. Yeah. And I think it potentially has fooled a lot of people, but because of the exposure I've had with people like this in the past, obvious. It really is. And I think it kind of put me off at first when I first met them and as time has gone by, and I don't see them super often, but when I do have interactions with them, it does make me sad. And there's a part of me that just wishes, that they could heal the parts of them that have happened in the past that have kind of brought them to this place. I read something recently about, and I know we mentioned narcissism a lot on the show, and it's not all about that, but it's just it's been from my personal experience. So I tend to gather there a lot.
Yeah.
But
popular topic now.
I read something or heard something recently that talked about a lot of times, especially when you have a narcissist type that is very showy and very like boasting and showing off and just talking about themselves a lot.
Yeah.
It was talking about how when they're a kid, they just didn't get the attention that they needed, the healthy attention that they needed when they were kids. So in a way, they are trying to overcompensate. They're trying to get something that they were lacking in childhood.
Yeah.
That could be a reason. I mean, it could be a couple other reasons too, but so it just makes me grateful for a lot of things. And it also prompts me to pray for them.
Right.
But it's interesting because I see it very clearly, and I sometimes want to just hug them.
Right.
Like, my goodness.
The emotional struggle may not be obvious to everyone, but it's obvious to some of us, and the person themselves, they may not even think they struggle. I don't think they do. Great, but we can definitely tell when someone is overcompensating. One of the first signs that something else is missing. They're trying to fill a hole with things, material things, or status, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we know it doesn't work. So we can see the struggle. They think they're fine, but it's obvious. It can be obvious. So plenty of emotional struggle in other people, for sure. Let's go to Nez and see what she thinks. Thank you, Jen. Who has a greater emotional struggle than you have, Nez?
Anybody right now who's going through toxic and abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Anybody who's feeling trapped and stuck. Anybody who's feeling like that ending it all would be the only solution.
Yeah.
Anybody who's feeling utterly hopeless and alone right now. Those are the people that are way worse off than me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I would agree with that. I agree with what everyone said. There's lots of good examples here, but pretty much everyone. I can't say that I've had too many emotional struggles. If I'm just looking at my whole life, I have had times of high anxiety, and but I wouldn't put it in the category of a great emotional struggle. I'm grateful that I have more of a balance with emotions, and I'm not saying I've always been balanced. I've definitely had my moments, but just in general. So I could throw a stone at anyone. I wouldn't purposefully do that, but and find someone that's struggling more emotionally. But I can't add anything other than what you guys added, so we can move forward. But the answer to this one and all of these questions is everyone struggles more in all these areas. Now, this is the one I've really been looking forward to the most, just because it ties into a lot of things we've been talking about in a lot of our audience. And what I would say the classification would be, if we had to classify most of the people that come to the chats, is the idea of who has a spiritual conflict greater than you have. I'll go first on this one and just say that I'm in a place now where I feel like my level of spiritual conflict is lower than it's ever been. I'm really in a place of gratitude for things that I believe I have been shown and learned and studied and researched. It's not one area. It's in several areas, and it has helped me have more peace in my life. So I think back to things that I have struggled with in the past when it comes to spiritual things. These things that I have gone on and on about, doctrines and dogmas, and holding tightly to something that is outside of yourself that you learned from someone else, and allowing that to make your decisions of how you're going to treat people. And any system that causes you to be in a place like that, it isn't a good thing. So spiritual conflict, hopefully for most people that are having a conflict spiritually, it's going to lead them somewhere good. So when someone says, oh, I'm having a real conflict, I'm wrestling with these ideas, these spiritual concepts, I think great. Where in the past, if someone says, well, if your faith is shaky, if you're struggling with your faith, well, it's not just about faith. It's a spiritual conflict. It can lead to better understanding and peace, and that's what it's done for me. But I would say that in the past, I recognize that a lot of people have this area, struggle with personal spiritual conflict, wrestling with all these ideas. And so now, from a place of more peace and better understanding, I'm not saying I get everything for sure, but I struggle in this area least than any of the areas that we've mentioned thus far. So I know that I have seen lots of people have this spiritual conflict of some sort. And this is the area that I would want to help if I could. I would want to help in any of these other areas. I mean, there's not much you can do for a physical disability that someone has. There's not much you can do to help except for, doing what you can and, helping a person across the street. But then you have to be careful. Someone might not like you offering help, but you do the best you can. And then in mental challenges or disabilities, we can help in some ways. And then emotional, certainly probably be able to help the most in that area, helping someone deal with their emotional struggles. But hopefully for me, spiritual conflict would be the area I would be of the most use, just because that's been the area of my own struggle for a while. All right. So my answer to that is there's always someone that would struggle more spiritually than me, greater than me. Let's hear from Nez next on this one. Nez, who has spiritual conflict greater than you have?
Well, spiritual conflict, when I heard that, I immediately went to not just the concept of someone struggling with their own spirituality and deciding what religion to be, etc., etc. My
Sure.
mind went to spiritual conflict as far as praying for people. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And it's pretty hot and heated over here in Nez Studios. So I don't know. I imagine there are a lot of other prayer warriors going at it and getting attacked even more so than what I got going on here.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind went.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
That could branch off into a whole nother show too.
It
But
could.
as far as people struggling with spiritual things, I think people who have not found where and what to put their faith in outside of themselves, people who haven't made that decision and that commitment to follow a certain path. I think people who are in the occult, I used to be in the occult, and I can speak from experience that that's a very spiritually rough place to be.
Sure.
Talk about all kinds of things and people coming at you from all directions, pushing you this way and that.
Sure.
And I've got a special heart for the people who are still in the occult right now, because I've been there.
Yeah.
So I understand. So those are, I think, are some of the people that come to my mind who've got it happening a lot more with spiritual conflict than what I got here. So.
Right. All right.
But there's plenty here. There's plenty here, but in prayer form.
I got you. No, I love it the way you see it, however you see it, and the way that you see it is completely and totally valid. Also, Christ is Truth saw it similar to you, Naz, rather than the way I was looking at it, talking about the need for the full armor of God and to guard our hearts, and says that we're in a real spiritual battle. So I agree completely. We are in a spiritual battle. It's always spiritual. I went to a different place with it than you did, and that's why we have these conversations. So thank you for that, Nez. What do you think, Jen? Who has a spiritual conflict greater than you have?
I think a lot of people, and my brain sort of went your direction, Cripps and Nez's. I was thinking about people that are struggling with their faith and what to believe in.
Yeah.
And all that entails, because
Right.
we've been discussing a lot of people that are just in any religion,
Yeah.
trying to understand it. And within that journey, sometimes you get confused, or
Yeah.
you're like, something doesn't make sense. And there's that
Right.
struggle. But then I was thinking about spiritual as well.
Yeah.
I do believe in the spiritual realm.
Sure.
And I believe in people being oppressed and attacked. And then my mind went to thinking about how that can affect you physically and
Yeah.
emotionally and spiritually.
Right.
That's a really rough road.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to say on top of what you guys said, but
Okay.
there's, I think everybody struggles to some degree, but some people
Yeah.
get stuck there a lot longer than others. And that's why I have to be a light and help people find the light.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was having nightmares. That's what made me think of, Jen, while you were talking, is the nightmares I've had recently. And I think I'm almost at about a week without having any of them anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like the minute I got a job, they stopped, but I was having nighttime attacks of someone being in our bedroom. Very shaky stuff. And the last one I had was the most vivid. I thought someone was in our room. It was that real to me. And
Yeah.
I do look at it as a spiritual attack. And, I'm prayed up and got my armor on and all that. So to me, that just goes to show you that none of us are free from that sort of thing. As prayed up as we can possibly be, believers in this world are still subject to those kinds of things. I didn't like it, that's for sure.
Nope, me neither.
But yeah, but I'm sure that other people have it way harder than I do. That's not normal for me. But I was really in a place for a long period of time where I didn't feel like I had any control. And I think that's what those dreams were about. If someone appeared in my bedroom at night with Jen and I sleeping and came over to my side of the bed and was attacking me, and I'm, half asleep, just in between being asleep and awake, and there's this person standing next to my bed, menacing look and a knife in his hand, if that were something that happened in real life, not a great situation, and
No.
our bodies don't know the difference between what's really happening sometimes and what's a dream or a thought. We react physically, and I certainly did. So
Yeah.
Anyway, my point about sharing that was that it happens to all of us, and a spiritual conflict is nothing to mess around with, for sure. What about you, Glenn? Who has a spiritual conflict greater than you have?
Lots of people again, but this is the one area I can honestly say I have zero spiritual conflict.
Okay.
That's pretty, but I'm going to come at this from a different angle.
Okay.
And I'm going to relate a story about your mother, and it would be, I'm trying to think, I'll just do it count, probably 5 or 6 years before she died.
Great.
We had a email exchange, and I was very surprised by it, because she said, essentially, I'm spiritually conflicted, not in my beliefs, but I'm spiritually conflicted in how I'm going to teach this to children. This is at Shannon School, which is, if people don't know, Shannon is Script's sister.
Right.
So she must have had must have been a teacher for instruction or something at the school. Would you know? Okay.
Let me fill that part in. So what my mom did was she handled a couple of things at the school. One was she gave out an award every year, 2 awards. One was the Joseph Award, and I forget the name of the other one. But it is an award that she would decide on, or people would vote on, of the person who best exemplified Joseph, a character from Scripture, who most people would consider was a wise person and made good decisions and things like that. Depends on what part of the story you're talking about, in my opinion. But ultimately, that's what that was about. And she also did the meeting at the flag prayer meeting with the teachers. Everyone gathers around the flag and they pray, and she kind of led those. And she also occasionally was involved in picking chapel speakers for the school. So she also helped kids with counseling and streamlined into helping families that went to the school and were having an issue with one of their kids. So Shannon would work with the tutoring part of that, and that's the business that my mom and sister started together, Learning Link, and so we go on from there. I can go into more detail, but basically in those few ways, she was very involved with the school as part of what Glenn's selling.
Okay, so yeah, obviously, knowing where I'm coming from, I was pretty shocked that she would say, "Have you got any ideas?" And of course, I gave her some ideas, and of course, as was not entirely unexpected, she hit the roof as usual. Chris didn't know what I mean, and she didn't like it at all. So the point is that from her point of view was not conflict in her own beliefs, but the conflict is how do you communicate belief to children? Because she didn't want to do it out of the fear scenario,
right.
You know,
right.
shaking boots. She also was looking at it from her own life and right. the way faith and experience had worked out for her. So right. She's very stuck. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you can give her some ideas, even retrospectively, now that she's maybe up there listening.
Yeah,
it's a tough question.
But yes, it's all true, and it's all like even someone secure in their own belief still has conflict.
That's a good point, Glenn. I'm glad that she was even concerned about that, because from an atheistic perspective, I've watched a lot of videos, and they make some good points about the way things are taught to children within Christianity. Even the idea of Christ being nailed to a cross and doing an Easter play involving kids, depicting Roman soldiers whipping Jesus and things like that. From their perspective, the whole thing is questionable at best for children. And now that's a whole nother broadcast, I'm sure. But the point is that my mother was concerned and wanted to do this correctly, and how to teach the Bible or teach these concepts to children in a chapel situation or in a classroom situation. A concern about that is a good thing, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of room for learning in how we pass along spiritual concepts to kids. And, you know, I'm a byproduct of that growing up in Sunday school and church, and I wasn't damaged. They didn't, you know, it wasn't a horrible experience for me, but I think paying more attention to at what level we share certain stories with kids is important. And I'm glad she was concerned about it. As far as me answering the question, I wouldn't even, I mean, I could venture guesses. All I can say is that for our own kids, Jen and I will, if we're given that opportunity, we'll be very careful how we pass along beliefs. We want them not to tell them what they should believe. We can share our beliefs with them. I think that's always a good thing, to share your beliefs with kids, and then let them know that they have to make their own decisions. And I don't think it's a matter of deciding to believe something. You know, you believe because of the preponderance of evidence and the measure of faith that God gives you. And, you know, you're not in charge of that kid, whatever child you're dealing with. You're not in charge of their ultimate salvation or what they end up believing. You can guide them and you can share your beliefs with them. But especially someone else's kid, that must have been a tough situation for her to be in. They're other people's kids. They're not even your own kids. And trying to decide how to teach such a topic as that with any kind of spiritual concepts.
Yeah, even to ask me, that must have hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. I think everyone answered that one about the spiritual conflict. It was a great question. We'll move on. Next question. Let me say hello to Lori. And also, I don't think I said hello to, he's been in there for a long time, Christ is the Truth. I don't think I said an actual hello to you. And then Preliminal is in there. and Lori. I'm going to say it wrong every time. It's ridiculous.
I said it wrong for 3 years, so I can laugh all I want.
You can laugh. You can. You have my permission to laugh now. It's all up to me. I'm the grand decider of who laughs on this broadcast.
Oh my gosh.
I probably minimal. Hi, Lori.
Also, Paul Johnstone, he came in a while back too, and I saw him in there, but we were in the middle of our conversation. I didn't say hello to him either. So if all you folks are still around, thank you for being a part of True Story Live, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Okay. So this next one, look around you. No, sorry. Let me move down. Oh, okay, here it is. Well, let me read the part from the write-up first. So Glenn is saying, herein lies our challenge, to try to mindset in terms of how fortunate we are and integrate that thinking into daily existence of gratitude. So there's self, and there's our connection with others via relationships. Admitted, finding gratitude in some of these situations is a tough call, but we can try. On to more questions. Okay. What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? And I'll start this one off, because I can tell you I take a lot of gratitude from my worst moments. I really am in a place where I think the only time we can really truly learn is through adversity. Now, I'm happy to be proved wrong. Trust me, because for me to be proved wrong, I would have to experience learning and growth when things are going awesome. So in that scenario, that means that things are going to go awesome, and I'll come back, however long it takes. I'll come back and tell everyone if I learned when things were going awesome. More than my theory is that it's the conflict that actually helps growth and change, becoming a better person. Now, I do think that after experiencing some of the growth and you go through a good time, if you're paying attention and if you're being introspective, you will have learned from that struggle. And I'm sure I say I'm sure. Yes, I feel pretty sure, like 99.9% sure, that you will enjoy the good times more than you would have if you hadn't ever struggled. You know, it's the whole meme, right? Of better to have loved than lost than not to have loved at all. I used to think that was ridiculous. Now I get it. You know, God forbid something would ever happen to Jen, but I would be grateful for the time that we had together. I just always will be grateful. There's nothing that can happen to change that I experienced this time, however long it is. And I got the chance to experience the most love I ever have before in my life. And I hope that I would pass that along to everyone, you know, moving forward. But as far as worst moments and experiences, what gratitude, all my gratitude comes from what I would consider to be the worst moments, because I learned from everything. And I don't think I have anything to do with setting that up, right? I'm just experiencing the gratitude that I know was there because of something bad that I went through. Just quick example, I talk about it a lot, but my divorce, horrible experience, took me a long time to get over. And now I don't even think about it except when I mention it, you know, in this kind of context. I spend no emotional, spiritual, mental, physical currency in being at all upset about anything that happened back then. It's nothing but gratitude. I know that I learned from it. I knew that I grew from that experience, the pain of it, the loss of it, and have been rewarded beyond my wildest dreams. So yes, I have a lot of gratitude for the things I've gone through. And I would even go so far as to say that if I had to go through it again, knowing what would happen, I would do it in a heartbeat if I had to. Now, fortunately, I don't have to. I don't have to go back. We can't go back. We can only move forward, but I'm glad to have the memories of that and the knowledge that it did help form me into the person I am today. All right. That wasn't too terribly long. What do you say about this, Jen? What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences?
Oh my gosh. so much gratitude, so freaking much gratitude.
Right.
I kind of look at it, the hardship and stuff in a culmination now, instead of like, sections.
Right.
Sort of look back at your life. You're like, all right, it's like this bubble of craziness.
Right.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I think this goes back for me to that belief that goodness is at its brightest and most impactful when it's set on a backdrop of darkness and or evil or whatever, some kind of negative thing. And that's where my life is at the moment. It's this gratitude blossoming out of this incredibly dark, hard, grueling time of my life,
Right.
and it seems like a distant nightmare now, which is, I'm grateful. It doesn't feel so fresh, and it almost feels like another life. And it was because I was a different person.
Yeah.
And I'm in a different place now. But what was the question again? I'm sorry.
No, what gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences?
Yeah. So a heck of a lot of gratitude. Yeah. And now I'm in a place where I've gotten into a habit of, as I'm walking throughout the day, whether I'm driving to work or walking into work or at work or coming home, just being thankful and actually thinking about it and meditating on it. And it's not like robotic. It's truly coming from my heart. Like, I am so grateful to have woken up this morning and have breath in my lungs and a heartbeat in my chest, and that I have a car that's working, that I have a job, like all of these different things. And it's amazing how it just revolutionizes things, everything. It touches everything. Yeah. And when I, years ago, when I heard people talking about gratitude journals, I was like, wah, wah.
No
and I think I had, that whole fake it till you make it, I just was like, and that's not what this particular thing was. I didn't have to fake it when I started being grateful, because I think we all have things in our life, if we really look, and some people need to look harder than others, but to be grateful for, and start with those small things, and it just grows.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It reminds me of like a beautiful flower, just being grateful, actively grateful throughout your day. It's like watering this little flower, and it just blossoms. It's wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
All right, Naz, you're up. What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? What do you have to say?
That I survived, that I'm still here by the grace of God, no matter what's happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
From times of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, to surviving abusive and dangerous situations, to going through heartbreak and disappointment from people you loved, you trusted, to going through relationships with narcissists and other toxic type people.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yep.
I don't have the answer to everybody's problem, but I know if God can bring me through what he's brought me through, then I know I'm a living testament that he can bring you through too. If that's what you really want. Yeah. Some people never want to leave their places of pain.
That's true.
That's a good topic for another show right there. Places of pain. Tuck that one away.
You could write
Places of pain. We'll talk about that another time. But I think, there's people, Stockholm Syndrome, people who are so used to the shit and the abuse and the negative and the darkness that they're afraid or unconvinced that they can ever rise out of it or escape or break away.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, I'm grateful for everything I've been through, because even the worst of it, I really believe God had a reason for having me go through it.
Sure.
I'm not saying God punished me and made me go through these terrible things because he was mad at me, or I was not living up to his standards, and he was just, going all,
I hate that.
medieval
I
on
hate
my
that,
ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a purpose for everything. There's a reason and there's a time for everything. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful I'm still here right now. And
Yeah.
I think part of that gratitude is when you pay it forward and help somebody else, or at least attempt to reach out and help other people who've been
There it is.
where you've been.
There it is. Right there. Good. Thank you, Ness.
Yep.
Glenn, you're up. What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences, my friend?
So I've got to stay with personal health issue. 1 in 6 survival rate. I got a reprieve. I remember I was given drugs to try and help, and I remember thinking to myself, I can't do this. So I cannot do this. Like I was pretty bad, and I threw them away. And I remember a couple of days later, I walked outside, and I thought to myself, oh shit, the sky is blue.
Yeah.
Obviously, things had been dulled by drugs, and it was just like everything was grey, and all of a sudden it was blue. I thought, boy,
Wow.
that changed me, just having that experience. But just seeing a blue sky, that was that gratitude, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, I'm not dead.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Wow. Thanks, Glenn.
It's very clear. I think I flushed them down the toilet, which I shouldn't have done, and put that into the water supply.
That's arguable. Yeah. All right.
So,
thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll start with you again, if you don't mind. What gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences? I'm sure you can have a lot to say about that.
Some of my best moments would be being out in the world.
Yeah.
In places that I would have had no concept of that existed.
Yeah.
But within those moments, I think it's a double-edged sword. Usually the places that bring the strongest emotional reaction are the ones where you see people being people. They have no concept of what we might have.
Right.
But yet, like, they are just so gracious in their attitude. I remember we were in Egypt somewhere down the line. We'd been sleeping on this dhow. I thought, I'm going to get malaria for sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went to this village and they said, okay, we're going to feed you. And this is pretty rough. And they gave us food. And now this is very, very basic and there wasn't much of it. And then after that, everyone was trying, like, would contribute some money trying to help the village. And then someone whispered in my ear and they said, you realise that those people gave up their food so you could eat? And I thought, oh shit, that's another oh shit moment.
Right.
It really hits you in the face.
Yeah.
Confronting the gratitude for having what you have is never better brought home when someone says that to you.
Right. Wow.
It is a very humbling experience.
Sure.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
So that's my answer to that one.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Naz, you're up. What gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences, if any?
Being able to be a mother to my children, to be in a place where I'm at peace and I'm not under any kind of ongoing abuse or stress or duress, where I'm not having to go out into the work world to make a living to support myself and my daughter, to be able to have my animals. There's people living in places that would love to have their animals and they're not allowed. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on that I can make art for people that they enjoy and that they get blessed by or they enjoy very much. This is just a never-ending list, and I'm not going to go on for 20 minutes. But
no, that's okay. Yeah, thank you.
But
it's all the time we have left.
It just keeps on going. It just keeps on growing. That list gets bigger every day. And to be here with all of you, to reach out to everybody that we reach out to on this platform.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Nez. All right, Jen, what gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences, if any?
Oh my gosh. Meeting you was a big one.
Oh,
And just life. One of the best moments for me that I can think of, one of the top ones, was leaving my ex. That was a big, big deal. And it was freedom.
yeah.
Freedom from bondage. And just
Quickly.
all kinds of things. Yeah, it was very quick.
Right.
And so, there hasn't been a day that's gone by that I haven't been grateful that I'm out of that situation and how it was just killing me slowly.
Yeah.
So that is a huge, huge amount of gratefulness, because that particular action, making that choice, brought along so many blessings, whether that's you or Glenn or just the people I've met since, growth, learning, healing.
Yeah.
It's just a whole bunch of stuff. And
Whole different world.
Yeah, whole different world. So even though it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, leaving my marriage, it was one of the biggest pluses, one of the biggest positives at the same time. So yeah, that would be mine for sure.
All right. I would say similar things to what everyone else has said. I mean, I don't have cats, so it can't be like
Not yet.
Nez can keep her animals. I don't have any animals. It doesn't mean I don't want any, but
Yet.
So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, and I wasn't thinking about it from this side of it. The idea of when things are going really well, do I take any gratitude from that? My theory was that, I think we learn more from adversity, but now I'm being forced to look at it from this side of the fence. And I can think of a lot of good moments and experiences that I'm grateful to have had. Even things that in my past relationship, things that I experienced that I'm still glad I went through. I'm grateful that things are different. And that doesn't mean that I can't celebrate certain moments that I've had in the past. Gratitude has definitely come from them as well. So maybe it's a different question. The one I'm asking for later is that when everything's going well, do I learn anything? But as far as whether I can get gratitude from it, I would say the answer is yes. Great question. Okay, so we got a couple more to get through. We're going to try to do it before 10 o'clock. I don't want to rush through things, but I'll try to keep my answers a little bit shorter. Next one, for your relationships, what gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences? I'll go first on this and just say that for my relationships, my answer is the same from above. What gratitude can be taken from my worst moments and experiences? The things that I've struggled with in past relationships have helped me have gratitude mainly for things being different. Even relationships with my parents, I tend to focus more on the negative sometimes, but there are gratitude, there is gratitude rather for the things that I've been through in all my relationships, even if it was difficult. So the worst moments, when you're talking about the worst moments, I would say that I'm grateful that at least in my mind, I don't think that I'll ever have to go through those things again. I think that's where my particular line of gratitude comes from. I wouldn't want to continue in relationships that created these worst moments and experiences. A lot of times, and not in every case, but a lot of times it was the poor choice of the person I was with. So that goes down a different road. I'll just say that I get a lot of, for my relationships, a lot of gratitude from even the worst moments. What do you say, Jen? What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences in your relationships?
Oh man, education, learning, from the worst ones.
Right.
Learning what not to do.
Right.
And sometimes learning what not to put up with.
Oh.
Or learning what not to care about. That's a big one.
Wow.
I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, about how I used to, if somebody didn't like me, I used to just obsess and want to chase them down and make them like me, because I felt like the definition of me being likable was based on if everybody liked me,
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. So all of these lessons that we learn through going through these hard relationships, friendships or, partnerships, romantic, familial, hopefully we're in a place where we can learn from them and do it differently, make different choices, all that kind of stuff. It's good. Growth.
Yep. All right. What do you say, Nez? In your relationships, what gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences?
That I'm not in all those bad former
That's what I
relationships
said,
anymore.
right? I think that's important.
Thank you, Jesus. Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I've had some train wreck, derailment, disaster type. Oh, wow. And it comes down to survival.
Yeah.
Survival and freedom are
Right.
really the best and the experience are really the best things to take away from all of those previous relationship experiences, family or otherwise. Thank God I'm not in that anymore, and thank God that I can hopefully reach out to other people that are going through similar, and thank God that I'm hopefully at least a little stronger and wiser from having gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Naz. What about you, Glenn? What gratitude can be taken from your words in your relationships? What gratitude can be taken from your worst moments and experiences?
I've got two here. The first one is actually I have gratitude directed towards my ex-wife who, she took my child away and did some pretty disgraceful things.
Right.
The truth of it is that I would not have left because of that embedded loyalty that I've got within me. But the other thing was the gratitude is because it forced me to be accountable. And face up to my own inadequacies and insecurities.
Yeah.
And without her having left, I would not have been on this path. That is for sure. So I owe her a debt, essentially. I mean, I know it sounds weird for someone to do something pretty shocking to you, but
in
the big picture, it turned out. And what followed on was the worst one. Then another worst moment. Your mother and myself splitting up was emotionally debilitating, but never once have I not said or willing to say to anyone who's willing to listen is that she gave me a life.
Yeah.
And for that, I will be eternally grateful.
Yeah. And you've made that clear.
Very clear.
I think she hears you up there.
I do too.
I think she hears you up there, out there, wherever it is.
Wherever it is out there in the cosmos.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Glenn, I just was thinking the other day, Glenn, like the hypothetical, I do this a lot with a lot of different scenarios, but I was thinking about if things had worked out and she didn't die and she didn't go back to Jason's dad, how that would have played out and the important things that have happened in your life, including meeting Sandra, that wouldn't, it's fascinating to think of the paths things could have taken if certain things hadn't happened.
Things would have been entirely different, but once again, I will say to anyone who's prepared to listen, if there's no Linda, there is no Sandra.
Right.
So, that's a double gratitude. Because I know that the place that I was directed to go after the situation happened led me straight down the path of self-discovery and towards Sandra. There's no way I would have been in any shape or form ready without therapy and a lot of other hard yards for a woman like Sandra to come into my life. So I just, the amount of privilege I feel is just like, I can't even put it into words.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So,
All right. Same question, Glenn, except for change it to best moments and experiences. So for your relationships, what gratitude can be taken from your best moments and experiences?
The truth of it is, although there's been worse moments, in many ways they're all best moments, if that makes any sense. Because each one of those moments I have to be grateful for, even if they're
Yeah.
tough.
Yep.
So you get it.
Yeah, those two things are mixed. Worst moments, best moments, experiences bad, experiences good, whatever it is. We can
It's
have
almost
we
it's
can have
almost paradoxical, isn't it? That
yeah.
that your best and worst moments, you can be show gratitude for each of them, and they're all they can be viewed. It just depends what your attitude is to each of them.
Right. Exactly.
So it's not that different. Because I had some bad moments with your mum. I've never had bad moments with Sandra, other than difficulty with her situation, but not bad moment, but emotionally difficult moments with your mum. But
oh yeah,
they're an absolutely necessary part of the gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the same thing too. Of her being my mother, I've had lots of difficult moments with her, but I can't separate those from the good ones. It's gratitude from knowing her as a person in general and accepting the tougher moments, because I learned from those as well. So I'll use the same answer. These two things are combined for me: the worst moments and experiences with the best moments and experiences. I gain gratitude for both of them. I still say, and this is just my theory, that I learn more from the worst moments and experiences than I have from the best ones. But I could be wrong about that, and I'll revisit that at some point on the broadcast. What do you think, Jen? Are these similar to you as well? Can you learn from your best moments and worst moments?
I think, yeah. I think when you're in a place of a best moment, I think you can, just like when you're in a bad situation, you kind of learn what kind of person you are based on how you handle it and react. I think the same goes with the best moments.
Right.
Do you boast? Do you brag?
Right.
Are you introspective?
Yeah.
Are you blessing people through that blessed moment, or is it all about you?
Yeah.
Me.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think you can learn things. For me personally, I feel like I learn more in the worst moments, and that includes like if I get triggered or don't act like myself or act out of my flesh. You know what I mean? I still learn a lot, but also including like the hard times. Going through dark times.
Yeah.
I feel like I learn more for some reason.
So that's my added question is the learning, but the question Glenn had, and this is it's my fault for saying it like I did, but gratitude. So is it true for you, the idea that you can gratitude can be taken from both the worst and the best moments?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. What about you, Nez? Do you agree that you can get it from
agree
both?
Yes, and like Glenn said, it just depends on your point of view, your perspective.
Yeah.
Even the worst things we've gone through, you can glean some good out of it. I believe that.
Okay. All right.
I really can't add much more to that.
No, and there's two more questions left, and so I'll just go with you for the next one. Glenn says, philosophically, I wonder if a person can live a low stress, low heart rate, contented existence if there's not a place for gratitude in there somewhere. What do you think?
If they do, then they must be completely self-absorbed and detached from everyone and everything, and bordering on being a sociopath or a psychopath.
Right.
But no, I think that for people, quote unquote, doing the air quotes you can't see, for normal people, certainly, I think you must acknowledge that something and someone greater than what we are as imperfect, mortal human beings has given you the gift of life, has put you in the places and situations and brought the people your way that have happened and have come along.
Yeah.
There's reasons for everything and a time for everything.
Yeah.
And I think being comfortable with knowing that is a big help. I can't
Sure.
see how people can navigate this life with absolutely no gratitude
Right.
for the good things they've been blessed with. I just, you know,
No, I think
I don't see that happening in a healthy person.
I think you nailed it. I think a person would have to be a sociopath or a psychopath if they really were able to have low stress, low heart rate, contented existence. If there's no gratitude at all, I would agree with you. What do you say, Jen?
Right.
What's the question again?
Philosophically, I wonder if a person can live a low stress, low heart rate, contented existence if there is not a place for gratitude in there somewhere. So essentially, he's saying, do you think it's possible if a person doesn't have any gratitude that they can have these other things, low stress, low heart rate, and be content without gratitude?
Gosh, that's a great question.
I think it is.
I'm like, I need to go conduct some interviews. I feel like part of me is like, it kind of brings you to the question of, do people who don't have gratitude and that have all these things just handed to them,
Yeah.
the happiness that they feel and that they display to the people around them,
Right.
is it legitimate? Like, is it authentic? Does it run
No,
deep?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
I feel like having gratitude and even experiencing gratitude, it's like painting a picture with a completely different palette of colors.
Wow.
They're just so much more rich and
Yeah.
jewel toned. I just feel like the other scenario of just having things handed to you and never having been through anything difficult or horrifying or traumatic or
Right.
devastating, it is sort of like a world of you. It's all about you and just entitlement.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they might think they have experienced gratitude, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's completely possible to feel gratitude if you haven't experienced the low ends of life.
No, full circle. That's the
Yeah.
first comment I made at the beginning of the night. I would agree with you. Thank you, Jen.
Welcome.
What do you think, Glenn? I mean, it's your philosophical question. I think it's a good one. I wonder if a person can live a low stress, low heart rate, contented existence if there's not a place for gratitude in there somewhere.
I can't see it because I think that, I hadn't thought about it until this minute. I think that gratitude simplifies your outlook.
Yeah.
It makes everything much more transparent when you can look through the eyes of someone who has gratitude. I think it's just so much more comforting, and whatever words you want to apply to it. And I do agree with the rest of what each of you said.
Yeah. It makes it real.
Exactly. It's like I said in chat, it has substance. When you have gratitude, it's like it's not an empty vessel.
Right. That's it. It makes it real. It authenticates it in a way, somehow. All right. Final question, Glenn. I'll go backwards order. I'll ask Glenn and then Nez and then Jen, and then I'll go last. Is gratitude related to love? If so, how? Is gratitude related to love?
I wish you hadn't dumped that one on me. That's a hard one. I was hoping, he was going to say, oh, Nez, your turn. And I was going to.
Do you want to wait?
And I was ready to go too.
No, I don't want to parrot and just say, oh, I agree with what you guys said.
Right.
But if I look at it the other way and try to think, is gratitude unrelated to love? I can't see it.
Right. Yeah.
So that implies to me that it is very much related to love.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask me how, which you're going to, I'm going to have to come back to you. But my gut feel on the first one is a yes.
Well, let's hear what Nez has to say. Maybe she'll.
Oh, beauty. Thank you.
Yeah. Is gratitude related to love, Nez?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
you've got to have that love to appreciate. And gratitude is an extended form of appreciation.
Yeah, good point.
And what I was saying earlier, when you appreciate somebody or you appreciate things or situations, that's going to show in your thoughts and your words and your actions. It certainly is. I don't see how you can be, again, aside from our people in the world that are totally disconnected and
Right.
woo, other than that, I don't think you can separate them.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to see them separated.
Right. Good answer, Nez. What do you say, Jen? Is gratitude related to love? If so, how?
Oh boy.
We end on the best question, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Golly gosh. Okay, let me pull my brain back together after being blown apart to try to come together as some cohesive answer.
Do you want me to go first? I'm happy to go next if you want.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
I don't mind. I'm real excited about this one. So is gratitude related to love? This is, for me, it's one of those, what came first, the chicken or the egg thing. Did love come first and then I have gratitude because of the love? Or did I have some form of gratitude and that opened me up to love? Now, I'm not saying definitively that I have the answer, but I think the being open to love and being grateful for what I had at the time, both of those things worked in tandem so that I had gratitude about the love that I was feeling. But it's so close for me to saying that, well, the love came first, like using Jen for an example, meeting her, feeling love for her, feeling her love for me, and then I felt grateful as a result, or I felt gratitude as a result of that. Because that is true. I mean, that's not some ethereal thing or nebulous thing for me. I have definite gratitude because of the love. But did the love create more gratitude? And the answer to that is yes. So which came first for me? All I know is that, as I've talked about before, Glenn challenged me to be open again to it. So I felt like I did open to the possibility of love and gratitude. Gratitude wasn't named at the time, obviously. It was from the aspect of love. But the moment I started experiencing some of these things, I looking back, I feel like I had a lot of gratitude. I was grateful. I didn't take it for granted. I still don't. Every day I wake up and I'm in this wonderful, loving relationship. I don't take it for granted. I make sure that she knows, and I make sure that I remember that this doesn't come easy for a lot of people, and I certainly didn't have it until now. And I would hope that everyone got a chance, and not just a romantic relationship, but to feel love, true love from any person in the world. And, for Nez, I hope it's your kids, or I hope there's some friendships that you feel that. Doesn't have to be romantic, but for me, that's the closest thing I have that I can think about this idea of gratitude versus love, what came first. So I'm going to continue to think about this one and relate it to my life. So I may come back in a few months and have a better answer. But for now, I'll just say the answer is, for me, is yes. Gratitude is related to love. How is it related? I think they work in tandem with each other. The love caused the gratitude, or the gratitude caused the love, and it's hard to determine which is first. What do you think, Jen?
Gosh, you just blew my mind. I would just say ditto on yours. I don't.
That's okay.
I don't know if you can feel gratitude without love. Because if you feel it, where is it going?
Yeah.
Like, who's it directed to?
Right.
Now, like, would you be like, grateful for yourself if there wasn't outside of you something that you could direct that gratitude to?
Well, God, I mean, God, you could. So if you're a believer, you could say, I have gratitude to God for what he's given me.
Yeah.
Any religion,
Yeah. Or like the universe.
Or universe. Yeah. Gratitude toward this thing that's bigger than myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. But where does the gratitude in you come from? Who is it related to? I tell you how grateful I am for you, that I have gratitude that I'm in your life and that you're in my life. And we tell each other that all the time. So does that create more love, or is that because of the love that there's the gratitude? I don't know.
Both.
Both, right? Both.
That's a great question. Great question.
We're going to come back to that question. We did get through all the questions, and
Chris, can I just finish the if so how, please?
Oh, I didn't realize you weren't done. Yeah,
that's right. No, I said if you could come back for the second question.
Oh, come back. Sorry. Yeah,
that's all right. Look, I very much like your analogy, the chicken and the egg, because I think it's very relevant. But I was just trying to think it out. It's very difficult for me to imagine that someone can show what I would call sincere gratitude, not superficial,
right?
Just a few, oh, that was wonderful. I mean, sincerity based, right, without a basis of love,
right?
I just can't sort of see that you can separate them. That's just a gut feel and response. But yeah,
no, I agree, and that's kind of what Jen was saying too. So I think, on the panel at least, I think we're all in the same place as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, so we'll come back to this one particular question because I think there could be more discussion on this, and I'll check back with you as I think about it more. All right. As with last week, I like to think we are all nomads in our own way. Gratitude is another oasis in the desert. And then the quote, let us rise and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful, from Buddha. And lastly, the catastrophe in Turkey and Syria at the forefront of my mind. There is a personal connection, having been to that area. This write-up is dedicated to those wonderful people remaining who are in terrible distress, but will somehow find a way to live on. Thoughts are with them. And that concludes tonight's write-up and broadcast, The Privilege of Gratitude, Two Paths. And just in closing, I would say that we all have these two paths. I mean, this is something that's been written about. There's poems written about it. There's stories about choosing a path that you go down in your life. And what is in that path, we don't always have control over, but we always have control over how we handle the path we've chosen. And, Led Zeppelin would say, there's still time to change the road you're on. I wouldn't count on that. I just would, as we go along, whatever time we have left, if you don't like the path you're on, choose another path. I have oftentimes felt like I didn't have a choice, but my mother would try to tell me that there's always a choice. I would say, well, I don't have a choice. Are you going to do this? Well, I don't have a choice. Well, you do have a choice. And I know that sincerely now, that there's always a choice of how you're going to handle your own life, your own situations. You can't control everything, but you do have control over your own attitude. And tonight we've talked about where gratitude plays a part in this, and the idea, the privileges we have, at least in the Western world, as compared to other countries, and how if we had a chance like Glenn has done to see how other people live, I think it would change our hearts and minds greatly, and it would help us be grateful for what we have and have gratitude for the place that we're in this world. So thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast. We'll be back again next week at same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Over the next 6 weeks, I will be in training, and I'm going to talk to the rest of the panel about the possibility of shifting the time to 7. And I haven't said anything about this yet. And that is because of my schedule. I will be getting up way earlier. And after I do a broadcast, it takes me a long time to wind down after going for 2+ hours. So not saying that we will for sure, but we're going to discuss that. I'm going to bring it up to the panel after the 6 weeks is up. The 6 weeks doesn't matter as much, but then after that, I'll be in full-time working mode. So we'll let everyone know about that if we're going to change the time 1 hour earlier, and that may not work for everyone either. So, but either way, thank you for being a part of tonight's broadcast. I hope everyone has a great week. I'm excited about my the first day of my orientation with my new job. And thank you to everyone that said prayers or thoughts my way. All good vibes, good thoughts, prayers are accepted, and I'm grateful for all of those. So I'm going to pass it over to Jen. Jen, take a minute to say goodbye to everyone. If you have any closing comments about this topic or any other thing, please take a moment to share them.
All right. I just want to say I am very, very grateful for this show and for the discussions that we have. And for Nez, for Glenn, for you, Cripps, and for everybody on the panel or in the chat, excuse me. I'm just so grateful that you guys come and hang out with us and discuss these things. And it helps, it benefits all of us. We're not up here like teachers or professors or anything like that. We're just coming together with you guys and coming to the table and discussing.
Yeah.
And I think it's very beneficial for all of us, and I'm grateful for that. Have a great, great night, guys. Have a great week. And if you have any prayer requests, shoot them in the chat. We would love, love, love to lift you up into prayer.
There you
So
go.
thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, Jen. And let's hear from Glenn. Glenn, take a minute to say goodnight to everyone. If you have any closing comments about tonight's topic or anything else, please give them.
I shall say goodnight, and I'm just going to say I hope you kill that job, Cripps, as we would say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kill it.
I appreciate that.
Stamp on it, jump on it, whatever you got to do.
There you go.
And that people, I recommend look at the photo. He actually looks pretty suave.
Oh, thank you. Jen is a great photographer. I'll just say that.
It's amazing what the camera can do.
That's
And
right.
they say the camera doesn't lie. I'm not sure, but maybe but you look good. You really do look good in the pic. So I liked it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. All right. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to hand it over to Marisa. Marisa, take a second to say goodnight to everyone. And if you have any closing comments about the topic tonight or about anything else, please make them.
Thank you so much. Wonderful write-up, Glenn. Thank you. And it is important to have gratitude. And sometimes, even in my day-to-day walk, I struggle with putting things in perspective. Sometimes I'm tempted to focus on other superficial things than backing up, looking at the big picture and realizing maybe I just need to stop complaining and just be thankful for a while. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful reminder to us all to just take a moment and back up and just say, hey, thanks. Glad I'm here. Thank you, Lord. Whatever it is you need to do. But yes, please keep on being thankful. And we're thankful. I'm thankful for all of you that have come tonight. Thankful for my dear friends and co-panelists here on True Story Live. And I'm looking forward to next Sunday. Find us right here on True Story Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please do take a moment to share it out on your social media if you're so inclined. And if you want to reach out with comments, questions, or suggestions for future shows, please reach out, and I know someone will reach back. So that being said, everybody have a great, blessed week. God willing, we'll see you next Sunday right here on True Story Live. God bless and good night.